All right, hybrid hunter time. I get this question more about the hybrid hunter than I think anything else. Do you catch fish on the hybrid hunter, or how do you catch fish on the hybrid hunter when there's no grass? Now, the reason I don't talk about it much, I live in a place with a whole bunch of grass. And what I mean by that is like every lake, almost every single lake around me within I can't think of hardly too many around me that doesn't have grass. So I'm a grass fisherman a lot of times. And that's what we throw it around a lot of times because it works good in the grass. If you notice how I don't ever throw 1.5s or 2.5s? Like you notice how I don't think I've ever done a show on a 1.5 or a 2.5 ever. I got 600-700 videos. I don't have a single video of a 1.5 or 2.5. That's insane, right? I mean, those are the two of the most fish catching baits that have ever been invented. Why don't I have those? Well, usually I don't like throwing crankbaits like that much around the places we fish because if you notice, a lot of those places I throw topwaters and I throw different baits here and there and whatever. A lot of the times when we go to certain places, that bite's not on. Now, I have done it and I catch them a bunch on it. I just necessarily haven't shown it all. So I know I made a top 10 at Table Rock on it, on the hybrid hunter, back before it was a hybrid hunter, quite a long time ago. Always smoke on them on Table Rock. I caught some on Lake of the Ozarks the other day. I've caught them on Cumberland, Kentucky Lake. Of course, made a top 10 on Pickwick on it, but it had grass. And where else did I make a top 10? Gunnersville, but it had grass as well. But I've caught them on Kentucky Lake in the grass and outside the grass. And I've caught them on, what was the other lake I went to? Cherokee, Grand, Fort Gibson, Texoma, Belton. I mean, I catch them on at every lake I go to. So many of those lakes are rock lakes, right? Now, the problem with that bait is everyone's seen it work in the grass. And a lot of people just don't throw it around like the way I look at it. And here's how I approach it. I always say this: good baits catch them everywhere. A bait that catches them, guys go around throwing chatterbaits in the grass and then throw chatterbaits around boat docks, right? But you don't think of it as a chatterbait some people don't think of it as a boat dock bait, right? Same thing. I catch fish out of the grass on a hybrid hunter. I catch fish out of boat docks on a hybrid hunter. It's a good bait. It works in both of those situations. A lot of people throw chatterbaits in the grass and on boat docks, but do they throw them down like causeways of rocks where they would normally throw a 1.5 or 2.5 or a small crankbait? No. But see, I do catch them on that stuff, just like I would catch them on the hybrid hunter, right? And so I'm just a guy who throws that bait a lot. And so I know what it can do because a couple of reasons. One, I'm using it in places where it should work. And what I mean by that is this: if I go to Kentucky Lake, obviously most of the time of the year, or times of the year that you're used to seeing Kentucky Lake, in the summertime, they're probably not going to bite it. They're all out there on the ledges, right? I wouldn't be fishing shallow water with it ever. However, when it starts getting to the fall and they start pulling up on those shallow ledges, by golly, I'm going to throw it. I throw it a lot. I'm going to throw a topwater, a whole bunch, because I'm usually fishing ledges 4 foot or less, and I'll throw that bait. And I can get bit on both those. I will go down the banks on that. I'll go down these like riprap wall, rock wall, stuff like that. Thrown around boat docks on Kentucky Lake. I flip it a lot in boat docks. When I was at Cumberland in the springtime, when I was at Cumberland in the fall, there were places where I would throw it because it looked right. They were shallow and I was fishing shallow. And usually if you just put it on and go down the bank where you already catch fish, just like I did at Table Rock, you're going to get bit on it, right? Most of the time, it's a color thing. I would say most of the time people are throwing the wrong color. I don't like, me personally, on those type of lakes, I don't like, this is going to sound crazy, I don't like shad colors. Your sexy shads, your whites, I don't like those colors. I don't like them, but there's a whole nother reason for that on the Hybrid Hunter. I throw smooth a lot, but I throw smooth in the in a watercolor that's different. It's usually a dirtier watercolor, but I wouldn't throw that in clear water, right? Even though it looks like a shad, I'm not really trying to imitate a shad. That's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to match the watercolor. So the clearer water, the more translucent the bait, and vice versa. So I rarely go, I'm not a big like match the hatch guy. And so I don't really care about those colors, just like jerkbait colors. I throw good jerkbait colors. I'm not trying to match anything. I'm just trying to pick out a color that I think they're going to eat. And usually it's because of the water clarity. And so I look at Hybrid Hunters the same way. So I'm usually trying to work it fast, throw the right color. And I would say, and I know this only because I see the sales of Hybrid Hunter and I see the sales of colors. And I can promise you that the top selling colors of the Hybrid Hunter, I don't throw much. So if you watch a lot of the colors I throw, they're probably not the number one selling colors. I just know it, right? When I go down to Choke Canyon and further south and get in some dirtier water, you see me throw a lot of the chartreuse colors, right? But you almost never see me throw them where I live. Water's too clear, in my opinion. It's just different. And I've just had to learn over time what color works best in certain situations. But for those lakes, for Kentucky Lake and stuff, I probably go with more translucent colors. And I'm trying to usually reel it really fast. And I try to get on those really, really big, giant, flat banks. The flat banks or the flat ridges. And I just cover tons and tons of water. But I would do that with any bait. I'm using a bait that can cover lots of water. That's why it's interchangeable with me with a swim jig. It's why it's interchangeable with me with a swim bait. It's why it's interchangeable with me with a topwater and a chatterbait. I wouldn't say any of those are interchangeable with, like, not many are with like, hey, I'm going to throw a 2.5 and then these other baits too, and they complement each other. See, because the 2.5 is going to run a lot deeper. Same with the 1.5. I'm throwing that bait in shallower water and water that you probably wouldn't think to throw a crankbait. That's why I always tell people it's not a crankbait. Don't think of it as a crankbait. I think to this day, they see a lip and they instantly go, it's not the fact that you're not going to sit there and think of it as a crankbait. I don't care how you think about it with the way it looks and stuff. But I'm more concerned about how you think about it, of where it's going to work for you. So I don't think of it as a crankbait as like, oh, that's a place I throw a crankbait, I'm going to throw that. No, if you heard everything I just said, I'm throwing it in a place where there's a fish in 4 foot of water or less. It's a giant area. I'm going to have to cover tons of water. It's a tool for me. So I look at baits as a tool, not as history. I think too many people look at it as, okay, well, here's where I've caught fish on a crankbait. This looks like a crankbait, so I'm going to throw it. So I don't think that way. I'm always thinking, okay, here's what I'm presented with. This is a body of water, so it doesn't matter what body of water it is. Where am I going to catch fish? Do I think they're on steep banks? Do I think they're out there in the middle of the lake? Do I think they're on flat banks? If it's the fall time, I think they might be around channels or flat banks. And if they are, then maybe, hey, if I get up around there and I'm fishing 12 foot of water and I'm cranking around the channel, and all of a sudden I've wound myself way back in the creek, and all of a sudden now I'm in 4 foot of water with a channel right there, I'm liable to switch to it. And then I might see like some logs out there in 2 foot of water, right? And I'm like, man, everyone's going to go up there and do all this other stuff on them logs. No one's going to go throw a Hybrid Hunter. So I sometimes throw that bait. 99% of the time, I think no one's throwing it. So I'm giving them a different look than they probably have ever seen before. Everyone's so used to it being a grass bait that they're sure not throwing it at these other lakes. Is it the best bait? I have no idea. I can tell you one thing. Some of the best baits in the world are baits that fish don't ever see. That's sometimes what makes a good bait. And it's still in that phase where people just don't throw it around in some of these places. I can't tell you every tournament I go to, right? If I go to a lake and everyone's fishing boat docks, 0 people are throwing it. 0. So if there's 200 people on that lake, I can go, is it better than a jig? Maybe not. Is it better than a jig after 200 people have been throwing at boat docks? Yes. So I just look at things that way. Like, how can it best help me catch a fish and why? And so that's how I throw it. It's just a bait. It's a bait that catches fish. And there's a ton of baits out there that just don't really catch fish that well. But if you see a bait that catches so many fish for people, it doesn't really matter where they're at. It's gonna work at other. I've had so many guys go, I've never caught a fish on that bait on this lake, and I'm like, I can come up there within an hour or two and start catching fish. Like, it's not. I'm not saying, I just probably look at it differently. So I'm saying, take a step back, look at the bait, not as a bait of, oh, I catch them here on this bait, so I'm going to try this. Start thinking, okay, why is this bait good? What is its qualities that make it good? I can fish it fast. I can fish it shallow. I can put it around wood and rock, and it's wild and crazy. I can put it on giant flats, and I can cover tons of water with it. If you're getting bit, or if you think that's where the fish are, throw the bait. You'll catch fish on it. And then if you're having problems with color, don't throw the same color all the time. Switch up colors. Don't look at it so much as, like I said, I don't throw a lot of the colors that they sell. People love them. I just don't throw them. I have other colors that I have more confidence in. And I can't tell y'all what color that is. Not because I don't want to, but you got to realize there's thousands of people watching this, and there's 1,000 different lakes they're throwing it on. I could be right on some and wrong on some. I don't. That's one of those things you're just going to have to kind of figure out. But if there's a color you're not catching fish on, switch colors. I mean, I've caught them on every color because, man, I'll just throw random colors out there. It don't matter to me sometimes. I'll pick and choose, like, oh, this looks right. And after 30 minutes and I think I should be getting bit, I might switch. I might go through 2 or 3, 4 colors in a day. And sometimes I'm on a lake for quite a while, and I figured out, I can tell you when I was at Pickwick, the one color down here that we don't catch them on in the clouds, like, I don't even throw it in the clouds, ever. I throw it in the sun. I got to Pickwick, that's the only color they hit in the clouds. I mean, luckily, I just kept on fishing it, right? I didn't let past experiences ruin what I was going to do on that lake. I let the lake tell me what was right. It told me very quickly, they will hit that thing in the clouds and no big deal. So like I said, what works over here might not work over there. It's something you got to figure out. The bait will work though. It does not need grass. You can fish a spinnerbait a lot in the grass, and you can throw it in wide open water, right? You can throw it in the sun, in the clouds, in the wind, without wind. The spinnerbait still catches fish. Chatterbait still catches fish. Red eye still catches fish. Topwater still catches fish. Hybrid hunter still catches fish. Just gotta look at it differently. I'm just telling you. I know you brought up Kentucky Lake. Kentucky Lake and Cumberland. I've been to both of them and caught them on that thing. Caught them on it. Very well. So, keep working. Keep trying it out. I promise you, if you read all the comments on there, when you see comments and people are like, man, once I figured it out, it was on. Every one of them almost says the same thing. It took them a while to figure it out. They had to look at it differently. They had to think about it differently. But once they did, boom, it was on. And then they have it. You're going to have it all to yourself. I can promise you that much. So, and please, 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 trust me on the rod. That's all I can say about the rod. Trust me on the rod. You will thank me. You will thank me. Rod's in the description. I promise you, you'll love it. All right. See y'all.